Let me kick us off real quick. So, for everyone just joining us, welcome. We are Control Camp, community built for independent artists who want to get their music in TV and film. I'm one of your hosts, Deraj. Joining me are my co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. And between us, we have years of experience in the music industry, creating and pitching songs that have been used in TV, film, commercials, ads, games, trailers, you name it, for some of your favorite brands. We do this every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we have real conversations with industry gatekeepers. We do Q&As. We also provide a lot of resources for you as well. So if you take a swing over to our website, controlcamp.com, and Control Camp is spelled just like up top with the greenhouse button, ctrlcamp.com. There you'll find all of our resources on our Sync 101 page and our Patreon. We also do record these rooms. In addition to some of the resources you'll see there, you'll see room replays of our past talks and discussions that we've had from different music supervisors for brands like Vogue, CBS. We had the ladies of CBS come and speak with us amidst a slew of others that we've had. So it's just been a lot of great information that has just been we've been blessed enough to have in our room. So go ahead, swing over there, check that out. We also have our rooms on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard, where we do what we call the listening session. I believe we're starting to move that to a bi-weekly thing. I'll let Eric kind of plug that a little later, more definitively. But we do listening sessions on Saturdays, and we're gearing up for a new schedule with that. So make sure you click the greenhouse at the top, and you can follow our camp, our club, to stay up to date on all the new rooms that we have up and coming. And with that said, welcome to the camp. And today is our normal installment of Campfire Convos. And we'll just be talking about music for TV and film and ads, and all of our burning questions, and hopefully just get some really vibrant discussion around those topics. So I'm gonna kick it over to you, Eric.
Cool, cool, cool. This is going to be exciting. While we're doing this, I guess Deraj and Steph, we can start pulling people up. So, Campfire Convo is a regular recurring room that we're doing now where we, as opposed to having a set topic, we kind of have some of our control camp familiars and sometimes some new faces. And we just going to have some interesting discussions around a variety of topics that are sync related and should be insightful for everyone in the room. Hopefully, be interesting conversation for everyone on the stage, and yeah, should be a lot of fun. And then as we have time, which we probably will, we'll open it up to general questions like we normally do, and then of course. We follow this by our after party, which is for Control Camp members only. So that greenhouse that you see above me in Deraj, if you click on that, you can follow the camp there, and that will make the after party available to you once this room is over. And that's just more of a getting to know us. It's not a moderated space. Anybody can come on stage, and we talk about everything almost except sync licensing. It's really just kind of like after a music conference, hanging out at the bar and just kind of getting to know the people in the conference. It's been really, really cool these last few weeks. Yeah, I'll leave anything out, Steph.
Sorry, I was pinging, and you can't unmute your mic and ping at the same time. It
Oh, I
makes your
didn't know
mic.
that. That's cool.
It's not cool. I mean, I feel like we got to write to Clubhouse and say, hey, ping should be separate from your mute button, you know?
Ah, yes.
Nope, I think that sounds great. I mean, I think we're going to have a pretty chill conversation tonight, and hopefully we get to a lot of questions. And I'm certainly going to contribute some of the questions that I get most frequently asked in my DMs. Because I feel like sometimes not everybody wants to ask things on a stage. So I'm digging through my DMs right now to see if there are things that our panel wants to, discuss that you're all asking us in our DMs.
Very cool. While we're doing that, let's just say what's up to who we have so far. Koichi, amazing composer, regular Control Camp family. How you doing, man? Koichi?
Chilling. My bad. I was trying to make some coffee.
I knew it was something edible that was going on.
I'm good though.
Good to have you here. Amy, how are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing well. How is everybody?
Very good. You're becoming the control camp regular now. We love seeing you.
Steph pings me every week.
Sucker.
That is great. Of course,
We love you, Amy.
Tommy from First Note. How you doing, Tommy? Good to see you.
Oh, good man. Yes, Steph pinged me too. So get your butt in this room, and I like it's she's got us programmed. I just jumped in automatically.
Very nice. Very nice. The program.
If only the rest of life worked like that, if I could just like press a button and have people do my bidding. It'd be amazing.
That's life. That would be life. What up, Vo? Oh, Vo Williams, you there?
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, I'll apologize. I'll kind of be in and out because I'm just moving around a little bit. I'm at the green screen studio right now. We're setting up production for something I'm about to work on, but I thought I'd plug in and just to my favorite convo of the week, and just see if I can learn a little something today.
Awesome. Yeah, no worries. Feel free to jump in whenever you're available, and we totally understand. Appreciate you being here. All right, so let's just jump in. We have a bunch of different questions, and the way this works is we'll throw out a topic. It's usually open to it's like we're all sitting around the campfire, so anybody can kind of jump in. And we're not going to have a too big of a stage, so it's okay if people are talking over each other. That usually ends up moderating itself pretty well. So we'll just do different topics. If you have thoughts on it, jump in. If that leads to some other discussion, want to throw, it's very free flowing, but these always end up being a really interesting discussion. So what I'll throw out first, we got Amanda on stage. How you doing, Amanda? Welcome back.
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks.
Good to see you.
Glad to be back.
All right, so so these Campfire Convos will be a variety of just kind of discussion questions, all general panel discussion.
Eric, you're on mute.
Eric.
Oh, thank you. I was all animated. My hands are moving and everything. I'm like, I was really into what I was just saying.
I can
tell. These convos, Campfire Convos, are free-flowing variety questions, and it's just general panel, general discussion. So they always tend to be interesting. So let's just jump in. First question, and it's good that we have execs as well as composers because I want to hear the different responses. But now let's start with the pandemic, since in some ways we're all like starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. I just had my first vaccination shot today, and I'm already thinking travel and all this stuff. So just from that, what is your industry outlook? Do you feel like, just in your own particular lane, has work, if it did slow down, have things returned back to pre-pandemic levels, or do you see that happening shortly or soon? Give us some perspective from where you sit in terms of industry outlook. And that's, anybody can jump on that.
I'll chime in a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Bo.
For me, it's been actually a massive spike, a huge pump in revenue, and I don't know if I can attribute that to just more marketing happening, more content creation being made, with all the focus that people have been investing in, being entertaining themselves and just kind of like staring at screens, as we are so much more now with being inside. I don't know, but yeah, I've actually had some pretty record weeks during the pandemic, obviously, which is bittersweet because, if I could trade a pandemic for the money that I've made, I would obviously do that. But it's one of those positive things that has kept us optimistic and feeling positive about creating. But yeah, for me, it's been really, really good during the pandemic, even more so than I've ever seen.
So it never slowed down for you, actually. It actually picked up, even, throughout this whole thing.
it wasn't. Yeah, it's been insane. It's been nonstop. It's and you know, and obviously a lot of there's just been a lot of energy, I think, around sync, especially with so many more musicians kind of discovering this space and wanting to learn about it, and maybe they didn't know about it before, but now with some of the options being more limited, seeing this as a huge opportunity to create another revenue stream for themselves or use it as marketing or whatever. So there's been opportunities to kind of like tutor people, mentor people. It's really been, for me, in my opinion, it's been a massive boom.
I see you flashing, Tommy. You wanted to jump in?
I was just cheering him on. Votes.
You're breaking up, Tommy. But is he breaking up just for me or?
Yeah, he's breaking up for me.
Yeah, you might have we weren't hearing any of that, Tommy. All right.
I think he's on a farm right now.
All right.
Nah, I think it's been interesting because I feel like when I think Tom is trying to get back in. Nah, it's interesting because I mean, for myself, I feel like I really started to ramp, or actually started to be more active and intentional in this space during a pandemic. So, I've kind of heard, like when I started working with, like say a music bed, some of the revenue that we were getting from there, one of, my co-writers was telling me that the numbers would typically look different, before the pandemic. But for me, I've seen it increase, since 2020 and going into 2021. So I guess kind of sharing the sentiments of what Bo was saying, it seems like it's been up an upward trajectory, and that's just kind of the sense that I get from talking with um, some of the other either execs or agents. It just seems like more work, even more briefs seem to be coming, um, than prior or previously. So that's from my perspective where I see things.
Deraj, I was just talking to a composer in the camp yesterday, and he brought your name up. He was like, "Yo, Deraj is like placing a placement, like posting about a placement like every week, like every single week." I'm like, it's so dope to see, and so that's part of what you're saying is that do you feel like that's just I mean, you're ramping up. You've been planting lots and lots of seeds all throughout 2020 to
Yeah,
now, so it's hard to probably tell whether that's the result of all the seeds
and
planted
that,
or.
yeah, I mean, and I've like I felt really fortunate and blessed to be in that kind of position, but at the same time, like like I do put myself out a lot, and I'm always trying to network, and I'm just constantly creating. So I think that putting my foot forward in that sense, definitely attributes to it. But I think outside of that too, it does seem like I've gotten just more. Again, when I look at briefs that come through, it just seems like there's more requests for music kind of coming than I did see last year. Um, but yeah, man, I'm super grateful for like the season that I'm in. It's been really really inspiring.
Now, what about? Oh, go ahead, Steph. Were you jumping in?
Well, I was actually wanted to ask Amy about this question. And maybe redirect a little bit to say, Amy, have you seen any change in the types of sync that are happening more in the pandemic? Like I know some people have said, obviously the film industry took a big pause and we're getting back into that now. But was there a lot of it that was still kind of in post during the pandemic, or did you see a ramp up in small content or, anything different for better or worse?
We saw, I think overall it's been incredibly like a great year. And I say that trying to still stay sensitive to the fact that we know that touring artists have had a really, really hard year and have another several months or a year, depending on what country they're in, ahead of them. That's going to be hard. But in the sync specific world, the volume has been huge. I think there's definitely been a shift in the kind of products. When we look at commercials, all the brands had to stop and pivot and be sensitive to messages. So sometimes, a quote would take something you quoted maybe in February or March of 2020, you didn't see it start like airing until end of the year when everybody kind of felt like we were coming out of it. So there's been that change, and then the volume, of course, with an increase in live streams, that brought a new sync revenue stream. But I think it's also something that we sit here, a lot of people based in the U.S. That's one story, but when you look at territories in Latin America, you might be seeing a completely different. So it really depends on the country that you're in, also whether there's been an increase. And I definitely think changes in the kind, sometimes in the budget, sometimes you see brands and clients looking for the less expensive option. So changes
Ooh,
definitely, but I think good overall. Like overall, it's been really good. More opportunity for more writers, because where you have that lower budget, it's opened it up to writers who didn't have that opportunity before getting
well, I just want to
chances.
repeat what Amy just said, or you can repeat it. Amy is saying that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Amy is saying that there are new opportunities for newer writers because people can't necessarily afford the biggest names in the business and the biggest things that they're usually going for. So it has actually created opportunity for creators like some of the ones in our room tonight. Is that right?
Yeah, there's been a mix. There's also been those clients who want to keep the messages in those great, huge, iconic songs, and we've seen some of those also. So it's been a little bit of a mix, but I think in general there's been more opportunity for those new writers and stuff. Another thing that I know because we've talked offline and you participated in it also, is we've had a lot more opportunity for collaboration for people to get together in rooms that maybe wouldn't have been able to before or wouldn't have made the time. So that's another thing that I think's been great opportunity. And then from there, we've seen a lot of placements and all also. So
Yeah,
definitely
thank you for
opportunity for
bringing that
lots.
up. That's really great. One thing I would definitely kind of is worth repeating in this room is that Amy works for Sony ATV. She's down in Miami in Latin. And one of the really cool things that major publishers do not always get to do, but the pandemic helped, and it also helps that Amy's a really kind and wonderful human being and very open-minded. But a lot of these big companies are very antiquated because they've been doing this for a very long time. The pandemic kind of helped push publishing companies and other companies to kind of open up their thoughts about how and who they can put people in rooms with and just be a little bit more inclusive, actually. And I think, the pandemic itself, Eric and I have definitely talked about this offline, gave everybody the space to really consider, and the time to really consider all the problems we had in our country, which we don't have to dive into, but I think it definitely, for me, and I know for Eric, and I'm sure some other people, changed the way we view our lack of diversity in our industry, and really gave us the space to change that, which I think is one, if you can say there's a silver lining to a pandemic, one good thing that came out of that time and space was the ability to create, that time to create those initiatives and those programs and those partnerships, which is really an amazing thing and a much necessary, thing. I think that was almost English, much necessary.
Steph, I think that was key also, is the time. I think everybody now had the time, and the fact that you no longer had the ability, because of safety, to get on a plane and fly to another city. You also had that many more hours available, or even to commute across town. And so then all of a sudden calendars were more open, and so now there was also just more time to be able to collaborate, as well as like an intentional thought behind it. It's also just people had the time to be able to say, I can do 3 sessions in a day, in 3 different countries of the world or cities.
Yeah, that's been neat. Go
Do
ahead,
you,
Eric.
do you think that will, and just for Amy or anyone, do you think that, because there's a lot of people who collaborate in different ways, do you think that the collaboration openness will continue even as we open up? I'm thinking specifically like being on the East Coast. I remember pandemic reaching out to some people in LA whom I like found online, and they were like, hey, let's get together, let's collab. And then they were like, by the way, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Atlanta. And they're like, oh, well, when you get to LA, hit us up and then, let's collab or let's get together. And so there was this I noticed numerous times there was a very like LA, you collaborate in LA kind of energy. So do you feel like that changes permanently, or things, or anybody seeing things already sliding back to more internal in-person collaboration?
I hope it continues, and I think it will. I think there are those who have been adverse to writing, like remotely and Zoom or whatever. And then there are those who have just embraced it, and that's where we've seen, incredible growth. So I certainly hope so. I think it's one of the best things to come out of the pandemic.
It was interesting because my transition, to doing more music in a sync focused direction. I knew that I had to figure out how to work remotely, really just for cost purposes. But it ended up being, very um, advantageous, like once the pandemic hit, because where I think people had to kind of readjust and learn how to do that type of arrangement, that was something that I was already kind of starting to do. And also too, just being candid as an introvert, like I just like I'm able to function in those spaces. I can do both, but I think having that level of distance sometimes was helpful for me. Um but I don't know, I just like the tech side of it. Like it now just gives more of an option and even removes more excuses, removes excuses and creates even more opportunities for people who necessarily wouldn't have had the opportunity to connect, because it's like, how else would I be able to create a song with my producer out in the Netherlands? You know what I mean, unless it was an arrangement like this, or if I just had the budget for it. But for indie artists, like these type of advancements kind of help the creative process in ways that it may not have been possible before.
That is great. From an artist and composer perspective, Psychosis or Koichi, we were talking about collaboration now. So, did you find yourself more collaborative during this period, and then do you see that changing, or has it been business as usual in that sense for you? Either of you, Koichi or Psychosis.
I think for me, what's changed the most in this time is stuff I've done outside of music, but it's also related to music. So outside of like other business ventures, I found myself doing more like mentoring slash consulting people who have been interested in getting into this space, which is sort of a transition within itself, from just like creating to talking to another creator about how to create for this space or how to prepare for it, or just the basics of publishing and PROs and things like that. Like stuff that I, always used to talk about maybe in an interview or, in passing, but now it's become like the biggest part of my music right now, outside of creating it, is talking to other people who want to create it and who are seeking some sort of guidance of like how to revamp during this pandemic, how to monetize during this pandemic, and how to frankly capitalize on the empty space that normally is filled by huge celebrities and huge tours and huge hit records. For the most part, that's been not happening, what I'm saying, across the country. And you got these voids where it's like, there's only one hit record this whole month. And then there's other people like, maybe I can fit in and get something going or get my name out in a different way and rebrand. So that's been my biggest change during this pandemic.
Love that. Anything to add, Koichi?
I mean, yeah, for me, it was relatively business as usual. I mean, luckily, for sure. I mean, I'm thankful for that. But there were a couple, direct correlations with regards to collaboration and I guess, depending how you look at it, opportunity. Like anyone who was A-list road musicians, like people who are, your go-to top guys for touring, no longer have that option. So a lot of those guys were willing to take on sessions for like frankly a more affordable rate that would have been harder to get. Like it, and again, this could either be based on the fact that they have their own setup, like kind of Deraj was talking about, like I know some folks in the last 2 years have invested into finding a way where they can be, you know, an all-in-one solution. If as far as like recording at studios and stuff, that was a little bit more up in the air, and there was, you know, there's a lot of gray area there about who was comfortable and who wasn't. But I definitely, you know, remember seeing some records being done where I was like, oh, how did you get this person on the record? And I was like, oh, that's right. They're not on the road, of course. So yeah. And as far as just general collaboration goes, I mean, yeah, I definitely was able to meet some new folks, partially through this community, you know, and as well as just other opportunities where, you know, all of a sudden, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, now we're responding to my emails. This is fun. So, so yeah, just the hustle continues, you know, with or without the pandemic. So
That is great. All right, just last quick pandemic related question. Has anybody already started like post vaccination travel planning? And if you have, is it business? Is it pleasure? What have you booked, if anything?
I booked a flight to go kick it with Steph.
You going to LA? Nobody told me. Nobody reached out. Like y'all got a whole meetup going.
She's just finding out right now.
Don't tempt me with a good time. That's too depressing for me to talk about because you guys know I had a trip booked to Japan for work and for pleasure, but I have decided this week to cancel it because you know the Olympics are now not open to the public, and I figure we might not be ready yet. So our trip is booked in August, and I don't think they're going to be ready yet. So we're canceling it, which makes me want to cry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we don't talk about it. But in good news, I do want to introduce Will, who I just brought up to the stage. Will Fuller, aka The Vil. Are you with us, Will?
Hey, what's up, Steph?
Hey.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, it sounds like you're in the car. We got you. The Vil is one of my favorite collaborators, co-writers, writers, producers. He's prolific in the sync space. He's an amazing, all of the things, write, produce, record, rap, sing. Well, maybe not sing. We make him sing sometimes. He doesn't like when we do that, but he can really do it. He can really do it all. But he's really worked with everybody. But I just wanted to introduce him to the camp because this is his first time in the room, and I thought he might have some perspective about some of the things we were talking about. So welcome, Will.
Yeah, welcome, Will.
Glad to have you, Will.
I really don't know. I really don't know what you guys are talking about too much, but I'm glad to be here, and I'll hopefully catch the next one on time.
Oh, no
worries.
We're
talking about music. This is the perfect time for a reset. You just set us up, Will. Here we go. Deraj, you want to take a reset?
Yeah, I'll run it. Yeah, so welcome everybody. If you're unfamiliar with who we are, this is Control Camp, and we're a community built for independent artists, composers, writers, producers who are wanting to get their music in TV and film for sync licensing. I'm one of your hosts, Deraj. Joining me are my amazing co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. And between us, we've just had years of experience in the music industry, creating and pitching songs to be used in TV and film, commercials, ads, games, trailers, for some of your favorite brands. And so we do this room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We like to have real conversations with industry gatekeepers. We do Q&As, and really just hoping to bridge the gap between, the artists and, some of the gatekeepers who are in need of the music that we create. And to kind of pull back the curtain to hopefully just create a sustainable career in this space, which we call sync licensing. So we have a lot of resources that we've created over at our website, controlcamp.com, and Control Camp is spelled CTRL camp.com. You'll see it above next to the green house. And there, if you go to our Sync 101 page, you'll see all of the resources that we have, past room replays that we've done, all of the interviews that we've had just with different music supervisors, licensing agents, publishers, composers, you name it. So all of that is there. We record these rooms. So if you got here late, don't worry. This will be available for you on our Patreon. And with that said, welcome to the camp. And today's camp session is one of our recurring rooms that we do called Camp Convos. And it's just a time where we can kind of get around a campfire and chop it up about just different topics related to our industry. And so, we'll just be talking about, music for TV, film, ads. And yeah, so, we just kicked it off. We talked a little bit about how things have changed and recovered since the pandemic and what that's looking like. And so we have some other, kickoff questions to kind of get the conversation going. So welcome, and we appreciate you being here.
All right, I got the next question. This is one I actually get DM'd a lot. So I get the same question in multiple forms. It comes this way. One is, when do I know? And I'm going to say all of them, and then we can direct them to, the camp here. When do you know it's right to sign a publishing deal or an exclusive contract with someone? So I'll leave it to publishers first, but Amanda, I'd also love you to weigh in on contracts and when if you have any insight, and also the artist. When is it right to kind of settle down with someone, be it a publisher, a manager, your team, a record label, a sync rep? How do you know when it's right to, pull the trigger on that deal, so to speak?
I'm an entertainment attorney, for anyone listening. In my experience, don't hire people until you absolutely need to, because you're only paying other people more money. I think that once you realize that the opportunities would be greater and you could make more money by hiring, even a manager or working with an agent or signing with a publisher or getting a record deal. Like, that's the threshold, I think, is when you can no longer do it yourself to an extent that someone else could do it for you. That's the simple
Mic
answer.
drop.
Yeah, wait, Koichi, come on, hit us with the sound.
Oh, we're
Wow.
Wait, what was that? What happened?
She's like,
bruh.
Coach wants me to talk or like say something. She's like, nah, make noise. Like, damn.
Koichi's mouth air horn is broken today.
Wow. Well, no, I mean, like, I thought I was replaced. Deraj has a button he can push.
That is true. The automation's supposed to be there.
That was funny. One of my favorite answers of all control camp time, I think. That was really, really, that's so important. Does anybody else want to speak to what Amanda was just saying in terms of like how, knowing that the right time is when you truly can't do something yourself anymore, or how to know when you are ready to pull that trigger? Amy, if you want to talk about it from a publishing perspective, like how do these writers in our room, me, everyone else in this room, know when it's right for us to even approach a publisher? Or do we wait to be approached? What's the answer there?
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing here, Steph. That was funny. So, and you and I have had this conversation a few times, so you know my take on it, but we'll share. I think it's so important that people understand when they get in a business relationship with a publisher, with a label. It is a relationship. You need to feel comfortable with the team that you're working with. There needs to be honesty, transparency, conversations. You need to understand what you want out of that. Are you going into it for a big advance? As a songwriter, is that the goal? Well, if that's the goal, then what Amanda said is probably right, and like wait until you can't handle it. But even more than that, you're going to have enough out there to merit the advance, right? Do you want a partner that's going to help you grow, that's going to help you find those opportunities when you can't procure them on your own, when you don't have the contacts and everything? Well, then that's maybe at an earlier stage. But then, we get into different layers of conversation as far as, when I think you've said it many times, Steph, about having the business buttoned up. You need to make sure you got your song, your catalog very organized. You should, as soon as you have anything that's being released, you should have a relationship with a PRO. You need to decide which one you want to become affiliated with. And just, I think, build those relationships. And when you know you have the right fit, that's when you should sign the deal.
I love that. So the takeaways from both of you, incredible women, are really to be prepared for that deal. So to have all your stuff together, to have your, to button up your business, and to be in a place where you're really ready to take the next step. So I actually, what I took away from that is do everything you can to prepare yourself for the next step, and then ask yourself, are you ready for this next step? And have you completed all the things that you need in order to get to that next step? Are you registered with PRO? Is everything organized? Do you have all your co-writers? Have you written songs before? Have you put anything out before? What do you have to offer someone? Do you need relationships? Is it about money? What do you want out of the relationship, and what can you bring in it? I derived all of that from what you said, and I think it's all pretty genius stuff. So thank you.
And then just one other point, again, when you start having international uses on the catalog, it's a lot harder at that point as an independent to be able to actually collect the money. If you don't have a major publisher behind you and you have international income coming in, be it if you have a song synced and there's performance income, you really need someone looking out for you, or that money in many countries of the world is going to stay on uncollected, or it's going to go to someone other than who it's supposed to. So at that point, definitely, I think, but hopefully before then, you've already done what needs to be done, and have that those relationships in place. But
we want to collect our pennies from all around the world. That's what we need.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point. Bringing it back to what Amanda said, when you get to the point where you're self-administrating and you really start to leave things on the table, or you can't do it anymore, that's a really good litmus test for, is the next step finding a partner, maybe in publishing or administration, to, make sure you're capturing that.
Yeah, I need help and I want help are two very different things. So
yes,
I love that,
Koichi. There, I'll
Koichi.
give you one. One more time for the camp. Can you repeat that statement, because it was really good?
Just like I want help versus I need help. There are two very different things. And to Amanda's point, I mean, I need help is generally when you, at least as far as like admin or management, and even to Amy's last point, like publishing can certainly be usually, that means you're in a position where you've now got some value. So there's a lot of leveling at the table that can be done, and things can kind of move forward. I think a lot of artists, producers, it's still kind of the old school mentality, but it's still hits very much today. I think that idea of a pub deal or a label contract, these are all very like halo level, like I've done it, and I get that. But I mean, trust me, I watched guys get their pub deals during the pandemic, and they were sitting on hits, so and they were in no hurry. They were still trying to figure their stuff as well, and they got the best deals for themselves, and whether that meant it was a lot of money, whether that meant it was the right support network, whether that meant it was the most comfortable team for them. Maybe they were lucky enough to get all of the above, but yeah, I mean, those kinds of tough decisions are not exclusive just to like the people starting out. And to be dead fair, I mean, if you're starting out, then you probably haven't like kind of earned the stripes to have those conversations, just on a brutally 100 kind of a level. But
yeah, I'd love to hear from Koichi Vo, Will, Psychosis, because I think back to how when I started, especially, and thinking specifically now about like exclusive contracts and exclusivity. When I was starting out, I would get approached by music libraries or fine music libraries, and early in my career, there really was more of a I was open to everything. Like I didn't know whether to, one person had a non-exclusive agreement, somebody else had an exclusive agreement. And in the community of songwriters that I was in at the time, even among those who were doing it full time, the mentality was, there's all types of deals. Really, as a musician, you just have to be prolific and throw lots of dots at lots of things, give lots of different people a try until you really find like the team that's really working. And so for me, early on, it was kind of, I signed songs away. I signed songs here. I signed exclusive deals that were in perpetuity, just different types of deals with, different people to find deals that I wouldn't sign today, but also deals that got me placements that helped me to get where I am today. So I'm interested from the artists and composers, on the stage. Where was the point for you where or did you have that transition? Did you get to a point where you were like, okay, this is the types of stuff I'm going for, and I know I've prepared, I know I have everything in place. I can deal with the top tier stuff or agreements that are better suited to me.
I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Mariella. Welcome to the
And
stage too.
thank you. Happy to be here. And also like coming as an artist as well now with the agency, but I had all those questions when I was starting out, and also like, signed some agreements that I wouldn't sign today, just like you said, and tried the exclusive and non-exclusive and publishing and all that. And I think just wanted to bring something that is so important to ask other musicians what they're what they've done, what their experience has been. And because I think it's so important, like I know people will vouch for what a pitch is, and they'll be a, they know we pitch their music, and we're not scared of people asking around, okay, what do you think about them? So I think people should be, well, always asking if they have a new someone reached out to them, they should go ahead and ask their friends. There's so many groups here, Control Camp and Facebook and everywhere, that there's a ton of musicians who have experience. And it's important not to sign the first thing that comes your way, and the path is going to be different for everyone. So my publisher is not going to be great for you maybe, or it's always different, but just ask.
Mariella, you bring up a really good point, which is what works for some people may not work for other people. So one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like you might really have to determine what your needs are as an artist and as a writer. Especially in the sync world, because there are publishers that are amazing publishers if you're a record label artist. And then there are some that are better at sync. Some of them are really prolific in the sync department, and some have one person in their sync department and that's all they have. So I think that's a really important question in sync to ask too. But I think you brought up one more good point, and then I'm going to kick it to Will, who I see he's got his mic off. I think Mariella just brought up $1 million point, which is ask your peers. Tiffany actually, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this, hit me up in a DM, and she was one of the ones who kind of asked me about a related question to this. And I was able to tell her my experiences today. And we were able to discuss what's normal, what's not normal. And then you get a metric of, kind of what the industry is like, because a lot of people will tell you, oh, it's this way and there's no other way in this business, and suck it up because you're new or you don't have the experience, or take it on the chin. You should have to sign a crappy deal. That's what it is. You do not have to sign a crappy deal. And by the way, that doesn't really change at any level of the game. The bigger you get, Amanda will like back me up on this one. I've been in this game for many, 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 many years at this point, and I will still send contracts to Amanda, and I'm a good fighter. And I will just be like, Amanda, there's no way I can get these people to change this thing. And she'll be like, you got to try it. You got to just try.
And that's a great point. I was going to jump in and say the point at which you should start paying an attorney to do things is when you have a deal that's going to be with you and live with you for a while. Like, you need to have a lawyer's eyes on that to make sure that you're not getting screwed.
Yeah, and Amanda brought up another really good point, which she's been making me think of a lot lately. It's the long term. We as creators think a lot in the short term, and we think 1 or 2 years ahead is the long term for us. But, like Eric was saying, some of these deals are in perpetuity. And then also things that you do now can also affect you in the long term, even if you're not thinking about it that way. Will, I'd love to hear from the artist perspective, your takes on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of great points are made, and one of them that stands out for me is that every situation is going to be unique to each person. Because for me, I was coming from I think, a different situation. I was coming from being a recording artist and then transitioning from being a recording artist into being a producer and then to being a writer, just within my over the years. So beginning, I was looking for just a recording, a good recording contract, but then that didn't make any more sense because now I'm producing and now I'm writing for, you know, doing sync stuff. So just that contract wouldn't make any sense at all for me anymore. So I think that you got to follow your own path and find that right fit for you. And eventually, that's what I ended up doing. Finally, you know me, Steph. I was all against signing anything exclusive. So I ended up, you know, I was like the non-exclusive king. I would make relationships with every music supervisor I could talk to, at every different company that I could talk to, and you know, have non-exclusive deals with them. But I think that helped me grow. My catalog became so big that I kind of outgrew that, and ended up signing a production deal, which was the right deal for me. So
Love that.
That is great, Will. I love hearing that story.
thanks, bro.
I want to say two things. First, I don't know if this was said already, but uh, I hope we introduce the artist formerly known as Deraj. He is now known as Just Trailer Me Please. So officially, I'm calling him Just Trailer Me Please by his real name. So congrats, bro, for all of the moves. I want to go in a different direction and say that I made a decision a while ago to try to like completely not focus on those kind of moves and deals. In other words, to like make a independent focused business plan solely, like with that being the entirety of the plan and how to scale that plan up to a comfortable level that didn't necessarily need to be like, okay, one day I'm gonna hand my career off to a publisher or to a record label or to a manager. But like, what's my comfort zone? What can I realistically do? Who am I connected with and near? And how can I just do some dope things? Because I think so many of us as artists, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be able to like name drop, be like, oh yeah, I got in the studio with this person, or I made a collab with that person, or I got a production by this person, because that's validation we've learned to have in this industry. And I've tried very hard to instill in myself and other artists, writers, publishers, independent publishers and producers to instill the idea that, you know, you already made it. You're already on. If you can create something out of thin air and have people who don't know you sing along to it, you already made it. Like, you know, it's not a dollar amount. It's no certain level of streams or plays. It's a ability and the freedom to just make what you want to make. Because I was telling the story of some of you guys may remember when Spotify first rolled out that like year in review thing. And I remember the first year it came out and you're watching all these people post like all their numbers. And then I was like super bummed one year because I was like, man, I thought my streams were going to be better. And the next year I got 10 times the streams of the year before and felt absolutely no different. And I was like, well, that was stupid. Like, why did I put so much pressure on myself to get to this certain mental space that meant nothing? So I think that you have to hold on to what actually means something and understand that for a lot of people, that, you know, you might be working for a certain amount of viewers or likes or streams or plays or even dollars amount, but that's not really going to make you feel at peace if it's not really genuine to your goal and who you are as an artist.
I love all of that. I don't know if you got cut off, but that was really, really dope.
Yeah, I love that. Let me jump in here real quick. I did have a question I wanted to throw out to our panel in light of kind of where we've come from already with some of the questions. I mean, we talked about at what point in time is it, I guess, timely to introduce like management or publishers kind of, you know, within the circle of, you know, the business strategy. And so if say you know, an artist or composer or somebody is not at that place where, you know, it makes sense to hire or have, you know, that type of representation, what kind of team do you think would be good for, the indie artists to have around them, maybe before they hit that mark, or just some other strategies to kind of help answer, some of the lingering questions that could be there where, it seems like, you know, it seems like the sexy idea to have a manager because it seems like it'll boost my career. But if that's not the move, who do I need and how do I maneuver, to grow into the direction that's, fruitful, I guess.
I actually want to jump in on this one because I was a manager for a decade. So I was creative growing up, and then I jumped onto the other side and did that for about a decade. And as a manager, I can remind everybody, well, I don't do it now, but having that experience, I would like to remind everybody that there's a difference between an agent and a manager. And there's a legal difference in California, especially, but there's a difference between someone who is there to procure work for you, meaning the person who's running around literally whose job it is to find you work and create opportunity and source opportunity and connections for you, versus a manager whose job is to literally manage. So I always say you should have a manager when you have something to be managed. So that means my manager is in charge of my legal team, my because we have two different, kinds of lawyers. We have, different people who work on our team. And if you're an artist, you could have, a tour manager, you could have a business manager, you could have a lawyer, you can have all sorts of people. You might have a publishing company. You have all these different things and people who need to be managed and relationships that need to be managed. That's the kind of like top-down view of management when you have something. Does that not mean you can't get a manager sooner? I think if somebody believes in you and wants to create that relationship for you early on before you maybe build out that larger team, sure, they can ride up, the elevator with you. But I really think it's a good reminder to know you have to have things to be managed. And that means you have enough of something going on that needs to be managed, and for an indie artist, that could get to the point where you've taken it as far as you can go, to meet that next level. Maybe you've done really well on Spotify. Maybe you've done decently well. You're kicking it on social media. You've got a song that's kind of like bubbling up a little bit and you need to get to those next steps. That's like the first step to, is a manager right for me? But I'd actually love to hear, from our panel. I don't know, does anybody in this room, Will, you have an amazing manager who I love. Actually, I'm so dumb. You want to talk about when you kind of signed your management? If you're there.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I lost signal for a little bit. My manager actually is a cool story because he's actually my best friend. So I met him years, like right when I moved to LA. So we developed just a close relationship. So I always wanted somebody that I could just trust, and he's like this super genius business dude. So me, along with trusting him and him being just really great at what he does and just a good person, that kind of sealed the deal for me of me signing with him.
That's really important. I think you brought up something good. Will said this person is my best friend. I happen to love Will's manager. This person who's your manager especially is going to be your squawk piece, meaning they're going to speak on your behalf. So I always say you have to have a serious trust and respect with this person who's going to speak on your behalf, and know that when they're speaking on your behalf, and Will and I have had experiences with other managers as well who don't do that, and that's how we learn that. If they're, not going to speak the way you speak to people, or they're disrespectful, or they have a different way of doing business than you do, that's something you also have to consider, making sure that you find someone who speaks in your voice and knows that your voice is important, because that manager's there to manage and they're there to speak on your behalf. They're not there to be in place of you in terms of making decisions. They're supposed to help you inform those decisions and come to better conclusions, not just make them for you. So that old kind of Hollywood management style of pull the wool over the eyes of an artist and just go at least for me, is not a smart way to do business. I always say you should be very involved at every level of your business. Does that mean you have to be in the minutia of every detail of your admin? No. And the larger you get, the more you can pass those along to people. But you should always keep your finger on the pulse of your business. You should never take your eyes off of it, for sure.
Very, very cool. Very good convo. I want to just double back before we do a reset. Something Mariella said earlier about having getting feedback about different, whether it's the agencies or the managers or different people that you want to work with, having a community that can give you feedback, a community of musicians. There is a site, and this is just pertaining to music libraries, but there is a site called musiclibraryreport.com that I do like to share because it's kind of like a consumer reports for music libraries. It's kind of membership based, and members just give their opinions on, having worked with a lot of the different music libraries. And you do have to subscribe. They do a lot of discounts throughout the year, and you can see it. You can do certain things without having an account, but to really, it's a cool place for it's not totally comprehensive, but they have a lot of libraries. And so you can enter the name of the library and just immediately get like a bunch of reviews, almost like Amazon written type reviews of people's experience with them. It talks about the types of contracts, whether they're exclusive or non-exclusive, what the terms are. So it's a pretty cool resource. It's musiclibraryreport.com.
I think that's amazing, Eric. And there's also a forum. I don't participate in it because since I'm a songwriter and I also administrate things, I feel like a little bit of a traitor in that respect. So I don't participate, but there is a really great forum on Facebook. Facebook groups are still a thing for independent writers. There's an independent writer community that I know Jason's a part of, and Julia and our team, and a lot of people are a part of. And a lot of that is basically a forum for people to say, here's the deal I got. This is what it was like working for this person. Some of it's a little bitching and moaning, and some of it is a lot of really insightful, just here's what I'm going for. And the idea is basically you're accidentally forming a little union by sharing information with each other. I will say that with the caveat of be very careful if you have an NDA, about projects, to not be talking about things that you're not supposed to be talking about. But if you're speaking in generalities, it's a great way to get information from people. And I highly encourage that you do that and do it from more than one source. Because remember, websites, especially if you're paying for them or things like that, or even these forums can be a little bit biased sometimes depending on where they come from. So just make sure you're hitting more than one source. Just like if you go to a Yelp review and someone gets angry because they didn't like their waiter and they give it a 1 star, are all the reviews 1 star, or is just that one and everyone else is 5? You kind of have to compare and contrast when you're looking at that kind of feedback.
Totally agree. Yeah, take everything with a grain of salt, and I like that. Looking at the context in terms of if it trends negatively. Same thing like when you're like renting an apartment or something, and only the people who are complaining are the ones taking the time to actually write reviews on some of those sites. So I really agree with that. Let's do a reset. Deraj, Steph, want to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless Steph wants to do it.
No,
You're more than welcome, Steph.
I'm here for accidental comic relief.
Yeah, no, we're going to get the reset going now, and immediately after we'll get into the Q&A time for the audience to join into the conversation. But for everyone just joining us, welcome. We are Control Camp. We are a community built for independent artists, songwriters, composers, producers who are wanting to get their music and TV and film for sync licensing. I'm one of your hosts, Deraj. Joining me are my co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. And we do this particular room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we like to have real conversations with industry gatekeepers. And our hopes with creating this space was to create a safe space for artists to bridge that gap and learn what it takes to really have a successful career with getting their music used for major brands, which we've, myself and my co-hosts have had success with. Those who are on the panel currently have had success or are some of those gatekeepers who use your music. So we like to bring all the voices to the table, and help just create just an amazing set of resources to help you in your journey. And speaking of resources, we also have on our website, controlcamp.com, it's spelled CTRL camp.com. If you go over to our Sync 101 page, there are a lot of resources, PDF resources, about top songwriting things requested in Sync, how to get your music placed, how to approach music supervisors, as well as all of the room replays that we've done during the time we've had Control Camp around. So a lot of content, a lot of information. We're trying to leave you without excuse, like moving forward in the space to really win. So go ahead, check us out. This room is also recorded as well. So if you missed us, don't worry, we'll be posting this room on our Patreon, which you can get access to over at controlcamp.com. So join us there. And, with that said, we've just been having a really, really rich conversation. And I appreciate everybody who's lent their expertise and their voice to this, to these topics. We value, we're very peer and community led, between Eric, myself and Steph. We don't posture ourselves as experts, even though we have experience in this field. We like to have a multitude of voices and kind of bring each other up, side by side. So we are a community, and we like to be community led. So, if you're here, your voice, matters and is valid. So with that said, we're going to, open up the hand raising and start bringing some people on stage. And if you have a question or anything to add to the conversation, we created this space to hear from you and to extend that conversation. And also how we do the Q&A time. We typically ask that you limit it to either one question. And we have a few people on stage, so I think we have some room to have a few different answers to any questions that are there from the panelists. But you can go right into your question, keep any intro short. We also move people right back into the audience after you ask your question. It's not because we don't want you on stage or anything. We just found that it helps us get more questions in with that format. So hopefully nobody takes it personal or anything, but that's the only reason why we move people down so quickly. But with that said, I'm gonna kick it over to Eric, and if I miss anything, feel free, bro.
Cool. Hey, everyone, just take a quick sec, even before we start the Q&A. And even if you did it earlier, do us a favor, ping somebody, maybe somebody different that you didn't ping before, about the room. We wanted to let people know that this is going on, and that helps us a lot. Also, remember, we have the after party after this. If you're not a Control Camp member, the after party will not show up in your hallway. So if you want to prevent that from happening, see the green house above my icon or above Deraj's icon. Click on that green house next to the word Control Camp, and that'll take you to our Control Camp page, and just hit follow. And then the after party room will show up in your hallway when this is over. And that space is not moderated the same way we let anybody up on stage. We don't pull people up on stage. Anyone who wants to come up and talk can come up and talk. And we don't really talk sync. We just we just chat.
We talk grilled cheese.
Yeah,
what we talk about. We talk about things that have nothing to do with our musical lives, so we can blow off some steam.
Yeah, it's been really cool. We actually get to know each other. It's been really, really dope. So I encourage you to come out and check that out. Also, the listening session. So we've been doing listening sessions every Saturday where we listen to music. You can go to controlcamp.com and submit a song, and then we'll review it on Saturdays and talk about its syncability, give you some positive, constructive feedback on how you can meet your sync goals with music like that. What we're doing we didn't meet last Saturday. We're meeting this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then from then on, it'll be bi-weekly. It'll be a bi-weekly room. So this Saturday, and then every other Saturday going forward. So that's all our other rooms. This room and the after party will remain weekly, and the listening sessions will be bi-weekly for now. So with that said, let's move. If you have any questions, just put your hand up, and we'll put you to the stage. And we're going to start with Herman. How you doing, Herman?
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Happy to see you and to hear you. And yeah, so my name is Herman, producer, musician, etc.
No.
And I'm this is a question that I tried to ask many weeks ago, but I get really weird on Clubhouse, and I don't know what happens to my speech. But anyway, so I'm gonna try again. This is a question for the Raj actually. I wanted to kind of see if you could maybe tell us a little bit on your first year, let's say, of sync, like once you became aware of sync and you started really working on the space. What did your process kind of look like? Like, is there anything on that process, or anything that you did on that first series that you think in the business side, like not necessarily on the songwriting side, because obviously you got that covered, but is there anything that how did your first year look? Anything that you think was kind of like key for the success that you're seeing now?
Yeah, man. I remember this question before, so I'm glad you asked it again. So for myself, in the first year, and even if I dated a little, like a couple months before, like 2020, when we were taking a course, I tried to be really, really structured and intentional just with my time and when I was creating music, because during that season, I was full time, and I still am full time. And just a little update, I'll actually be leaving my full time job at the end of the month, because 2020 was really good, and sync licensing is just been something that has helped me to make that transition. So it is possible, y'all, but I empathize too. Just there we go. There it is. It's refreshed. It's been tuned up. No, but I'm super excited about it. But during that time, I just have a lot of empathy for artists who still have a 9 to 5, still work full time, or something that's not solely music. I had to get really, really intentional with when I was creating music. I personally use like different project management software to keep like songs that I have running, songs that I have pending and I need to finish out, or songs I want to prioritize. I have, a database. I use a, software called Airtable, where I was cataloging all of the rep relationships that I was having. And last time I talked to them, and I just set really, really, as much as I could, clear goals on my outreach efforts and how many songs I wanted to try to, create, within that year. And I just put it before me and just had that singular goal. And then the last thing I'll say is that I made a decision to focus solely on this. Like, I knew kind of my monetary goals, and like how many songs I want to do, all that kind of stuff. And so I cut out everything else, because like I'm a jack of all trades. I do a lot of stuff. But I said, I'm only going to be focused on how do I get my music into TV and film, sync licensing. That became my singular focus. And I feel like that helped me to really, really grow like leaps and bounds, like within a short amount of time. So hopefully that answered your question, Herman, this time. If not, just hit me up, bro.
Deraj, I'm going to pause you for a moment to just do some of your takeaways, because you dropped so many important points. And I think three of the most important points that you make are: be intentional in what you do. It's something I've always admired about you. You set intentions, you set those goals, and you're, relentless in achieving them. And I think that's an amazing thing. And I think that's something that we all as humans take for granted. It's really important to prioritize what's right in your life. Hang on, sorry. To prioritize those things in your life, and then set those intentions so you can prioritize your time the right way. So that's number one. Two is being diligently protective of that by being organized with your time, and dedicating yourself to doing those things. And then 3, I can't remember what the third one was, but there was something really great that you said, and now I forgot it.
Focus.
I've got a third one, Steph, and you
Yeah,
can
give
jump
it to
back
me.
in because I know you'll remember it. I'm going to give him some props. Deraj is super humble, but I'm going to give everybody in this room like a story on Deraj. The first time I met him, I was actually, co-partnered with Durango with their film placement, and Deraj happened to be in my group that I was able to go from place to place to place, and we were pitching to literally the biggest names in the industry, and I didn't know who this guy was. And when I tell you, when he came to the room, super professional. When he came to the room, super prepared. When he came to the room, he absolutely knew his presentation inside and out. And he did something so unique. He DJ'd his own pitch and he developed an entire party atmosphere. And by the time we got to the third room, every one of the supervisors is saying, wait a minute, this is the group that has this DJ guy in it. This is the group that got, and I was able to sit there and tell them, no, this is the guy that you're going to be doing a lot of syncs with over the next year. His level was so prepared. His music was so good. So don't let him be so humble because this dude brought it last year at such a high level. When he entered, he knocked the door slap out. And that's
You,
the truth, man.
you did it, Tommy. You jogged my memory. Organization and preparation. Deraj has it at another next level situation over here. So being organized, I mean, he's talking about Airtable and things like that. I think everybody takes for granted the level of organization that is required to be in sync or in music if you really want to be successful. That kind of level of organization and detail and preparation is always slept on in our industry, and we're all guilty of it. And I highly encourage, if we're talking about our earlier topic of like teams, that's the one place, if you can't get it together yourself, hire someone to do it with you. Participate, but hire an expert or a day-to-day or somebody, an assistant. I mean, Deraj has like virtual assistants. It's kind of amazing, but like it's next level. We won't go on about Deraj all night, even though we want to.
Wait, we are going to go on one more thing.
Okay,
I'm
no, really, just because this is, I think it is important, and he's not going to say some of the stuff that he does, all the systems that he does put in place. But even before he started getting all the syncs, he and I took the same course with Catch the Moon, just learning about kind of writing for ads and learning kind of how some of the business worked. And even in that space, we were in the same like subgroup. And so our subgroup, had people from all over the world in it. It was probably like, 15 people in our subgroup. And we would do these regular Zooms every week, kind of working on our assignments and just, what we're studying. And those supposed to be like an hour, and we would set a time that everybody around in different time zones could make, and Deraj was almost always there. But we had a number of talkative people, and just we get kind of social no matter what was going on, because Deraj was juggling his job plus relationship and all kinds of stuff. No matter what was going on, 10 o'clock on the dot, Deraj is like, yo, I'm out. All right, had a great time. See you next time. And it's like his timing, like he's like knew, like I got a schedule. I'm sticking things on schedule, and I'll see you guys next time. And it's like I peeped that right away. Like he just kept things organized from the very beginning.
Okay.
Discipline is key.
PTR.
Can y'all stop calling this man Deraj? His name is just Trailer Me, please.
Also, I'll add real quick to.
Yeah,
my
ahead,
bad,
Coach.
Tommy. Go ahead.
No, man. You jump on. I was just going to say simply, if you look at the moderators on here, and you would be included. I was going to bring up your name, but Vo and Psycho and Will and Jessica and Amanda and obviously Steph and Rosie and Antique. You got to watch. If you're watching this thing every week, everybody on this panel has something in common. And they're playing this game at a high level. They're very serious about it. It's a business to them. They're networking, they're pushing, they're working their butts off so crazy hard. And everybody that's up here that votes like, man, this has been one of my best years. And Psycho will be able to say the same, and Steph is saying the same. Go look at the work they're putting in every single day, way beyond creation, way beyond just making a track or a song. It's all the other things they're doing 24/7. And that's what we've got to do to reach that level of getting to where we want to be.
Real talk. Also, well
there
said.
You go. I was just gonna say one thing real quick, Eric. My bad. Just
go ahead.
A quick distinction on what Steph had mentioned earlier about you know, if you like Deraj, the fact that Deraj uses this much work optimization software as like a creative blows my mind because I'm terrible with that stuff. So major props to Deraj. But to Steph's point, if you need help with that, like hiring out for that is key. That is not what you hit up a manager for. That is a I want help situation. That is not an I need help situation. So like there, I'm to be fair, I don't know who you would actually go to for something like that. So if someone is like, hey, here are the types of things you can do that's maybe not software based, but if you're looking for a person, an assistant, I've never had to hire up an assistant like that, but I'm sure someone on here would be able to expound on that, or maybe that's just a conversation for the future, you know. But yeah, that's
Amanda, you look like you might have had a response to
Oh,
that.
I was just gonna say you can find like a really good assistant to handle all that stuff for you. That is easier said than done, but yeah, that would probably be an assistant.
Like Steph,
I have a full-time admin who does all of our everyone who's worked with us has worked with, because I need that person. And I also have a best friend who's great in tech who's on our board who actually implements all of our technology to make things easier for us. So I surround myself with people who are OCD, organized, and diligent about that, because I am organized for other people and never for myself, which is something I have to recognize. So you have to kind of look at yourself and say, what do you need? As I'm having this conversation, Serena, who's on my team, is pinging me about my W-4 for my SAG. You know, it's like, I need that person to do that for me, because I will hound you for your paperwork, but I'm terrible with my own. So you have to find the people that kind of fit those things for you. And I've always gotten an assistant in the past that's done those things, but when things really kick up a level, you do need dedicated people to do that. And you can also, when I moved to LA and I had an investment in my company, we hired a business manager because I felt like it was too much money for me to know how to handle things right, especially when we're dealing with people's publishing. And, you know, you have to have when you get to that level, you have to keep things legit, especially when you're splitting out other songwriters, and you can get really granular with those people. There are people that literally, if you're self-administrating, you can hire people just to do the publishing admin for you, so you can account to all your co-writers. And even at an independent level, do that on one song and land one really good movie. Good luck administrating that. It's a lot to do. So you have to really get granular in those details and know what you need and find those people. But they absolutely exist, and they're actually, believe it or not that hard to find. But like we said with everything else, you really do need to ask around to do that. I found my business manager when I moved here through a band I was managing. It was their business manager, and I said, oh, hey, can you do that for me too? So ask your colleagues. They're going to be the best resource for you.
This is, and I want to say this so that this ends up on the recording, because we've talked about this, and Steph has actually brought this up a couple of times, but this just solidifies that we need to do a whole room just about building your team. And a lot of times artists look at, you know, I just need somebody above me. I need the agent. I need the manager. I need, you know, maybe a lawyer side, but we don't think about, you know, actually hiring people and assistants and admin and other things. And so we're going to do a whole room just dedicated to that. I think it'll be awesome.
I would be purely lost without those people. KZ loves, she texts me and I always text her back. I don't know, ask Serena, because I'm so afraid now. I have such systems in place that if I say something, I will surely fuck it up. So, you know, when you get a good system going, it's also about being diligent about sticking to that system. And really, you have to be at the point in your career where you're committed to, you know, not only respecting everyone else's time, but respecting your time, you know, and saying, okay, I'm committed to, you know, not only just downloading Asana or Airtable or Excel or all those things, or buying those things and spending the money on them, but actually following through and being accountable for using them, which again, Eric, we can have a whole other conversation about. But accountability is a big thing in this industry that we are sorely lacking in the creative community. So I think Deraj, not to call you out again, but got to give your flowers on that. You know, he's really taken accountability personally for time and, you know, goals and follow through, which is huge.
Yeah, only thing I'd add to that is don't let this intimidate you that there's some people with big teams. I mean, you know, Steph works with Quincy, for goodness sakes. you as an independent, you can simplify your world and just you can do a lot of these things yourself. You really can.
All such a good discussion. I love this. All right, let's go on to the next question. I got Mickey on stage. How you doing, Mickey?
What's up, guys?
Good to see you.
So my question, and forgive me if y'all hear some bleed in the back. I'm at my studio space. So I just relate super heavily to what Steph was just saying, and my ears perked up when you guys started talking about Deraj's system. Would love to hear more about those kind of things in the future, because I'm definitely one of those people that wants to be super organized but just isn't and is all over the place with having my hands in a few different baskets. But I'm wanting to really optimize my sync journey and just using different productivity management tools. So would second that. Would love to hear a room all about that kind of a thing. But the original question that I had when I raised my hand was, I want to hear you guys talk about like research habits and developing a cadence of tuning your ear and refining your taste to what works for sync. I know that a good song is a good song, and if you make a good song, there's probably a place for it somewhere. But one thing that I find myself sorely lacking in during my sync journey is just getting into a habit of watching shows, or like just seeing what the needs are and learning. And so I want to see what you guys have done to, if anything, to develop a research habit.
Jess, are you Jess Ruti? Are you here? I'd love to hear from Jess and Rosie or some of the supervisors in that too. Like, how are you, since you have to have the A&R ear most of the time, and then we can kick it to the artist, but I'd love to know what you guys do or gals do, to kind of keep your ear in tune and to learn those little things, since it's all different for everybody.
Sorry, can you repeat a little bit of what he was asking? I was just also listening to something at the same time.
No problem. How do you refine your ear for, I'm making my husband dinner in the background. We're multitasking here. the joys of Clubhouse. How do you refine your ear, do your research, and know what is needed for, musically, what is right for projects? What's your workflow when it comes to, knowing those things? Am I asking that right, Eric?
Yeah.
Mickey?
For like research specifically, how do you research music and stay on trends and things like that? How do you get your ears primed to what your clients are looking for?
Sure. I think, Rosie, and I have a buddy in the audience. She's still there? No, she might have left. But, I think Rosie will agree that like you develop a trailer ear, and you just start understanding what like a trailer song sounds like, and you just have a different type of ear, and so things just start to sound differently. So even like radio songs you listen to on the radio, you can't really listen to the same way anymore, and songs you used to work out to, I used to really enjoy like all those songs that used to pump me up at the gym, and now I can't listen to them like that anymore, because they're all songs I pitch, I listen to, and I have to, I skip ahead every 15 seconds, and I make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, and then I give them to editors. So you just know kind of what editors want from songs, and if you're working with a client, over and over again, you get to know what their tastes are. So I'll know what an ABC Family, song is like, or I'll know what an NBC drama song is like, and I'll have an ear for that. I'll hear like the brooding, the opening. I'll hear a female vocal, and I'm like, here we go, let's see what's going on in the back, and kind of like I say, it perks my ears up when it has that certain to it. A lot of times we want to, if it doesn't need to be cleaned up, if it's already has that like polished production, I'm like, all right, these guys know what they're doing. I won't have to do much convincing to an editor or producer that they can use it already. This is already kind of good to go. It has the waveform of dynamics that can be cut with it. And when I kind of listen to things on my own, and I find like a diamond in the rough, it's always exciting to be like, hey, this doesn't come from our usual sources. Check this out. You can do something cool with this one, if that helps you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I definitely agree about like your ear just like you know you're like looking for what a song and a trailer is quote supposed to do, which really just for you guys, it's supposed to build, it needs to go somewhere and do something. So like if I hear a song that kind of just is not one note but kind of one level, I'm probably not going to pitch that for the main song in a trailer. There's always the option to trailerize something, but that adds another layer, I guess, where like if I'm just trying to get a folder together for an editor, I'm going to always go to stuff that builds and builds and builds. And another thing though that I think is, and again, like we're talking trailers here, so for me and Jess, but something that is kind of goes across everything for me is like if there's a unique bass line or like a unique hook or unique, I mean, you guys have been here and know the whole didgeridoo story. The reason I liked that was because it sounded so unique and it really cuts through the clutter and it doesn't sound like here we are again with like the generic like find me something that sounds like Mumford kind of thing. um Something that makes it feel not generic, something that makes it stand out, that'll make people like, staring at their phones during commercial look up at the TV because they're like, oh shit, what's that song? Um, so I'm always kind of looking for stuff like that. And as far as research goes, we get sent so much stuff from every which way. I try to build myself like a little folder that's I literally call it listening party. And I try to have a listening party with myself um, every week. And I mean, that's basically, I guess, how I research, but also like just listening to stuff on my own and, like via the algorithms that I have and whatever. And I favorite stuff and I have a back pocket that I put stuff in. And it's always like a place to start. Like usually if I get a project, I think of one thing and I reach out to all my contacts with like my baseline of like, this is kind of my idea, but like give me more stuff in that kind of world. So that's kind of my process, I guess.
I love that. Atik, I'd love to know from you how, especially, with something so current as sports, how do you keep ahead of the trends, so to speak? What are you listening for? What are you looking for? Less about like what you're placing, but more about, how do you just know what the next big thing is, right? Because aren't we all kind of chasing what's next versus what we did already? Or, I'd love to hear from you if you're in the room still.
I am still in the room. To be honest with you, a lot of the stuff that we've like synced and that have become like big, we happen to be in, at a show and we hear like an opening act and we're like, whoa, that song's really good. Or I know there was an instance like 2 years ago, we were at a show, little, how the labels and everybody does those little shows in their buildings. And we happened to be, Brian and I, who Steph, we were there. And then we were walking by one of the bays and we heard this artist and there's a country artist. And we were like, whoa, that kind of sounds good. And we ended up syncing that song. So it just really like, sometimes it's just luck, you just have to be open. You just have to be open to everything. And, obviously some of the stuff works and other stuff doesn't work. And, to be honest with you, I've been in sports for such a long time that in my head, I can listen to something and visualize how we would use it. I can distinguish, okay, this could be good for a music video. This could be good for a bump. This would be good for an open, yeah. So I think a lot of it is because I don't have the traditional ear like everybody else. I just rely on like my own experience working in the edit bays and what sounds good. And then again, a lot of it is just luck, like finding, you get lucky when you hear an artist and you're like, oh, that'd be perfect for us to use, There have been a few instances like that.
That's amazing. So if I had to extract, from Jess, Rosie, and Atik here, I would say if I'm the independent artist here, which I am, I would say find the thing that you're going after and then research the shit out of it. Watch it a lot.
Yeah, and I will
listen
share.
to
I will share, if you find me, if you look up my Spotify playlist, I do have some stuff that we used last year. If you're savvy enough to go find me, there's a bunch of playlists, and you can glean information from that.
Yeah,
Oh, you
I was
guys,
actually,
wait.
yeah, I was gonna say that too, because I mean, I have, I know which supervisors have playlists up, which ones are public. All the shows have playlists generally already built, and I felt like Mickey was kind of alluding to the fact that he might not have. I mean, nobody has time to watch every freaking piece of television that comes out these days. So, if you're going like backwards in, if you were asking about like how to become a music supervisor, that's a different, I think everyone kind of touched on that. But if you're just like, how do I quickly be able to catalog? Sorry, calls me. Someone just called me. What's actually being like synced and used? Then, I mean, nowadays, I think by default, everyone is putting out at least a Spotify playlist, if not more than one, based off of seasons, or you can go backtrack a little bit. And so that's, I mean, there's the technology is helping you out a little bit in that sense.
Yeah, you just got to go know where to look, right? You can look me up on. I mean, giving this, like, you can look me up on IMDb and see my credits, the shows that I've worked on. And again, knowing the right person, I created the role for myself like 10 years ago. We didn't have anybody. And Steph knows this, we only had the head of licensing, Christine Black, Rymel, who's been my rock. And she's the reason I have a career and longevity, that I can say this, it's due to her. So like, again, I just saw an opportunity and I created my role, and I'm not a traditional supervisor. So, but I feel like my experience in sports does lend to me being able to find music for what we need it for,
I want everybody to click on Atik's profile, and if you're interested in music for sports at all, he just gave you the key to the NFL.
Hot spicy tip.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you can do research. Are people willing to do research? They're not gonna, let's be honest. Like, I don't know how many people are gonna read my bio, and then they're not gonna, I mean, you can Google me and you can get the information. Like, you just have to be nice. Steph, we talk about that. Be nice and don't say, "Hey, I got music that's perfect for you to use." And I'm a human being like everybody else, so I just sometimes.
Our favorite, be a human. That's what we say all the time. Be a human. Atik is dropping such amazing information. And a little fun fact, most supervisors and most shows make playlists. And I'm going to tell you a secret, because I'm the worst at this. You should make your playlist private when you're pulling songs for a brief or things like that. But I can tell you that for Music Box, and our little initials are MBX, many times I forget to make them private. And I will put up our playlist that we're pulling for briefs, especially when I am on the other side and I'm supervising, or if we're pulling for our own team to have references or inspiration for things, we'll say, MBX playlist NFL. Or if I'm working with a supervisor, I might even say Atik and accidentally leave it on, public display. Most of the time we're pretty good about it, but many times we're not. I think you'd be shocked at what you can find if you just do a little bit of digging. So I think that's a golden opportunity that you've just dropped.
There's so many great gems in that whole discussion. That was pretty awesome. All right, let's continue with Adam.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's been a while. What's up, Eric, Deraj, Steph?
What's good, Adam?
So many gems coming in here. This is insane. Happy I'm on this. It's kind of all kind of related. So my questions goes out to all you, but Steph, you kind of touched on it before. So I remember the first time I joined this Clubhouse group, and there was a music supervisor, not going to say anyone's name or anything, and she was like, yeah, I don't really look at unsolicited links. So I know there's all about relationship building and this and that, but I used to be my old band's manager, booking agent, dude that does everything, and I truly believe in just DIY 100%. But it really seems like there's a gatekeeper of having a sync agent or someone who's going to plug you to Music Soup. And I truly believe, Steph, what you're saying, there's a difference between having a manager and then someone who just plugs you the work. And what do you guys think? Obviously, I'm going to keep on plugging and making my connections, but do you really think that finding even a really small micro music supervisor or some sort of sync agent could really help me bring me to the next level?
I think that's a great question, Adam. And we'll be open this up and get other people's perspective. Just my perspective from the number of rooms that we had, because I'm definitely, I'm a, analytical. I'm a pitcher. I'm a plugger. I keep a database of people I want to reach out to. I do cold emailing. I do DMing. I build relationships, and I do it all in an organic, very human way that works. But I've heard over and over and over in this room, different supervisors come and say, hey, I love meeting new people, but I've got an inbox of 500 emails I have yet to get to. And if it's midnight and I have to pull a song, I've got 20 people that I know well, I do business with, I'm going to reach out to them. And like over and over and over, we've heard different people say, hey, when it's crunch time, I've got set people that I deal with and I run to those people. Or, I deal with these agencies, or I deal with these music houses, or I have set people and I'm open to music, but realistically, I can't get through all the music. And just because of the pace of business, I deal with people I know their business, I know their rates, they know how I do business, they know what I can work with. We're not starting from the bottom. And so that has been very eye-opening a lot to me, and I think we've said this before in here, is that showing me that, one, I'm still very much about building my own relationships, but I realize that I'm building relationships not for today. I'm building relationships for next year, or for 6 months from now, or for down the road. I'm building those relationships so that I'm one of those 20 people that they reach out to. But that's not going to be hey, here's my email. Hey, here's my disco link. Great, there's a placement coming tomorrow. And so I realized that it's definitely shown me that sync agents, third parties, music houses, production companies, libraries, however you look at it, that as composers, musicians, songwriters, we should be open to people who already have the relationship and seeing how we can do business with those people.
Yeah, Eric, I second everything that you just said. And Eric's really good at the kind of organic pitch. I think you could write, I'm trying to get him to, he could write a whole book on being a human and, getting people to work with you just based on, being a good human and having the talent to back that up. So he's proof of that success, where you can kind of just, even cold call or reach out yourself. I think there is a lot of success in that, but everything he's saying has been validated many, many times over in this room. I can tell you from personal experience, for me, when I felt like I needed a manager, because for a long time since I was a manager, I was like, I don't need a manager. I'm the best negotiator. Why do I need somebody else? That's just more money out of my pocket, blah, 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 blah. And after years of telling people why managers are so important, when it came to my own stuff, I was like, I don't need one. And then when it became important to me was when I couldn't speak on my own behalf anymore, because the truth is, as a music supervisor and a production house or a studio doesn't want to tell you why they don't want to pay you or think you're worth as much as you think you're worth. That's really a huge part of the game. And I found myself negotiating with a major studio, and who I had negotiated on behalf of other people many, many times before. But when it came to my own thing, where they're like, oh, we want to keep your vocals, or we want to toss them away, or we want to pay you SAG, or we don't want to pay you SAG, or we think it's worth this. If I'm talking about you, it's super easy for me to say, hey, well, Eric just engineered this. He produced it. He's singing on it. You should pay him for all those things. And without fail, it has nothing to do with Eric. That studio is going to try to negotiate down and say, well, we want an all-in fee, and we only want to pay Eric one rate of $5,000 for all those jobs. And then it's my job as a manager in that respect to go back and say, well, since he did all those things, at least pay him an extra vocal production fee, or pay his travel, or pay union fees for his vocals, or any of those things. That becomes incredibly awkward to negotiate if you're talking about yourself, and it's not that it can't be done, because it absolutely can, but something to consider at every level is, if you're negotiating on your own behalf, what does that mean? So it gets a little harder as things get bigger, but it happens at every single level, because a music supervisor is going to say, I have X amount of dollars in a budget for you, or for this song. It has nothing to do with you most of the time. Producers have line items in their film budget or their television show budget, And unfortunately, I was just talking to a friend who's in big in the television industry, and he's saying, especially because of COVID, there are a lot of expectations for them to cut costs for making TV shows, and they are cutting costs with music first, which is insane, but true. So that producer, no matter how much they like you, or that music supervisor, no matter how much they like you, is going to have a set amount of whatever, $5,000, $10,000, $1,000 that they can. And it's really hard to negotiate with you. They're going to be sad for you, especially the amazing music supervisors that we work with who actually do give a crap about musicians and do want to pay you well. They're sad when they have to tell you, hey, I wish I had more money, but I don't, so I would say those are some things to consider when, considering if you should have an intermediary. And I'll end this by saying it doesn't have to be a manager. It could be a sync rep. It could be a company that you work with. You can also having an assistant, as nuts as this sounds, who you trust, who is someone who's at a high level speaking on your behalf. I have an admin that I trusted who used to do that for me before I had a manager, because it just honestly made me look a little bit more legit when I wasn't so legit. So consider those things too.
I love that. That's going to remind me that we need to include that story when we talk about the building your team room, because that's amazing.
Fake it till you make it. And I have Amanda on the stage. You can also have, in absence of your manager, you can have your attorneys reach out to make deals on your behalf too. They're the ones negotiating those deals behind the scenes anyway. So your lawyer could be that person if you're at that level. Amanda, agree, disagree?
I would caution against that. I would just say it is unclear whether or not the Talent Agencies Act applies to lawyers, and therefore lawyers cannot procure employment. And it is also unclear whether or not pure negotiation is procurement of employment. So don't rely on your lawyer for you.
You see all the precarious positions I put my legal team in every single day.
Well, she was so prepared with the response, though. It was like,
yeah.
Well, you note how I said agree or disagree.
Thanks for that.
That was awesome.
Amanda's by the book, and I appreciate that.
All right.
I've worked with Amanda.
Sorry, Atik, what'd you say?
No, Amanda was instrumental in something we were doing last year for Super Bowl. Because, she made something happen that I was just like, I'm like, Amanda, you deal with this. Essentially just left it to Amanda. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I mean,
Amanda could apply the pressure. That's the thing. Amanda could leverage her position to get what we needed to do. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
We have a lot of relationships within the industry, me and my team. So that's what we often lean on. That doesn't include the law.
Exactly.
But most of so.
And that's what I'm alluding to. Not to put you on the spot, Amanda, but your legal team can really be amazing like that. And you can honestly, I call my legal team for advice that is really far outside of legal sometimes. They're like my shrinks sometimes too. They don't like that, but whatever. They bill us hourly, so it's okay. But you have to have people you trust.
And I think that's the bottom line, or like for me, the key takeaway of what we've been saying, which is, and this will also come back to this, I think, when we do this Build Your Team Room, is that really the whole success of this depends on relationships. And so doing the self-pitches, you are trying to formulate those relationships yourself, which we all encourage. But at the same time, moving quicker requires partnering with someone who already has the relationships in place. And establishing that partnership can help accelerate your business quicker than trying to lay all the groundwork yourself. All right.
Yeah, but don't be discouraged. You really can do a lot of it yourself. You really can. And like Amanda said earlier, don't take on a team until you need that.
And when you do, make sure you delegate, trust them, because it'll make your life easier.
Such good stuff.
Well said.
All right, so we turned hand raising off because we only have less than 15 minutes now, and I want to get to the last 2 questions. So with that, let's go to Graham. Graham, you on stage? Nope, going once. Graham Penniman, are you muted? Going twice. Okay, Graham is not there. Mark.
Hi guys, thanks a lot for this. I'm just soaking it up. Appreciate everybody. I'm trying to find the lady that made the comment about Mumford and Sons, and I know I don't see if she's left or not. Anyway, it triggered a question for me, and that was when you get the briefs. Just a really short background. Where I'm with a 3-person team, and we write a lot, and we've been doing it for just over a year so far. So we have a couple little placements, and that's where we're at so far. And then, but when you do you get the a-las, right? We need this song to be a la whoever, Mumford and Sons, right? And then you go, well, does that mean to sound just like them, or just to kind of be in that genre, be kind of Americana? Or is it okay if it's just the right instrumentation and the lead vocal sounds like them? I just wondered, all the expertise in this room, I'd like to hear some people comment on the alas.
It's a good question. I don't think we've had that question phrased that way before, so I'd love to hear some responses.
Eric, could you rephrase it?
When you get a brief that says looking for songs like Mumford and Sons, or looking for a song that sounds similar to Chris Brown, this, or Drake's that, what are they asking for? Copies? Are they asking for sound alikes? Are they asking for something with the same tempo, same key progressions?
Mm-hmm.
How close? What does a la actually mean, and how close should your work be for that kind of pitch?
Koichi, you got this one?
Sure. Well, the first step, if you haven't already done it, would be to simply just ask. A lot of times, I don't mean that in any kind of a rude way. I mean, I'm that way too. Usually, generally, if I get something sent over to me, and I'm hoping that it's in the email, and if it's not, or the email just seems extremely veiled in generalities, then I'm gonna pick up the phone or email back and be like, okay, hold on, before I dive into this and then waste my time, which ultimately wastes the client's time. I'm like, can we dial this in a little bit so that I get a better idea? Now, if it's people that I've worked with before, usually I've been through that process, so I'll kind of be able to read through that. But the honest to goodness answer is, a lot of times you won't know until you've either failed or succeeded a couple times with like the client side, to be like, okay, like I can translate what they mean, because it's rare that they give you something that frankly is easy and great for the creative side to be like, perfect, I completely understood what you said to me. There's going to be colors and weird references and some woo ass terms in there where I'm just like, what? Like, that makes no sense. But then
wait. Can you
define woo woo ass?
Yeah, can you please?
A lot of times so if I do work with Japan, this happens a lot. I'm like, which fool used Google Translate for this brief send? Because I'm just like, oh no, like this. I'm like, is that an English word? I'm like, it is, but it's like some PhD level word that I've never heard of, and I'm like, you guys are trying to describe love, and I have no idea what that word means.
Yeah, but Koichi actually
know.
just touched on something important. It's the you might get a word in there that's like, could you make this a little more green? And you're like, what? Sometimes it's not a translation fail. Sometimes you're legit just getting weird stuff. Go on, Koichi. I just thought that was an important. You touched on something important.
I mean, and I'm sorry, was this Mark who asked the question?
Yeah, it was Mark.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to, because I was just gonna use your name. So like, Mark, I mean, and I wouldn't stress on. I'm not sure if this was partially like implied from your question, but also sometimes I wouldn't stress too much on the first time out, assuming that it's that the request just doesn't sound completely ass backwards. Then you go for it, and hopefully you get the feedback, and then you can even fine tune
heavier from there. I mean, that round one feedback is going to kind of be your most important. If you're lucky, it's, hey, this is great, send it off. You know, it might just be a couple little comments. But if it's, okay, hey, we like this, but we're not so sure about this, then that gives you an opportunity to definitely dive in deep. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anyone would be somehow, I don't know, offended or unimpressed if you asked a question of clarification. I mean, that's a good thing in my book. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
I see.
I think-
I see. Just
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think this is such a great question because, yeah, a lot of times you'll get a direction and you don't really know what it means. And that's fair enough because people write, we write briefs sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, I nailed it. Everyone will know what I mean. And sometimes you are leading people in a direction that they're confused and they don't know what you mean at all. And a lot of times when you get the a la Mumford and Sons direction, it can come from any place. A lot of times it comes from a producer saying that they're like, oh yeah, like we want like a Mumford and Sons type song, or we like an Arcade Fire, and they're just kind of throwing it out there. And it could be from a place of like, we don't know what they mean by why they like it, but they know because has a good feeling. Like, I've had to do an a la Arcade Fire thing many times just because it's like, yeah, you know how it was in the Where the Wild Things Are. It's like, yeah, we like that. And, we just want to like recreate that. And you have to try to tell in a brief, we want to that. And it's the most all try to say because we're like, I know this is the worst thing I have to tell you, but like this is literally what I'm being told. So you just have to get creative with it. And the other hand, it could be more of a sound alike where it's like, we like this song but this song's not really working, so we want something similar. But it could be everywhere in between. And I've done a lot of the like a la Arcade Fire, but it could be great if it could be about an adventure. And but maybe Taylor Swifty, a little Daft Punk, and like you start giving like 8 different types of things and then you just send it out because that's everything that you were told to ask for, and you just kind of see what you get back. So I totally get why it's confusing. And I do get a lot of people coming back and being like, what part of the song do you like? Like, which parts are you looking for? And me being, cool, yeah, like this is leading you in a weird direction. I get a lot of the M83 vibe. My producers are really liking a spacey, like ethereal M83 vibe type song. And like, what does that mean? And so I kind of have to like more creative. It's like, well, we're not looking for folksy. We're maybe looking for something uplifting. Here's a little bit about the story as I can kind of tell you. And M83. And what do we mean by that? I'm going to try to figure it out, but I want to see what you can throw at me. And we think that's round 1 because we're going to probably narrow it down from there. We're using it as a reference.
Right. So you were kind of... Oh, go ahead, Steph. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, for the years that I've been doing this is my first time inside the supervisor's head who's actually sending it out. And that was just, like, insanely insightful. Like, it's all I get is a piece of paper with text saying, such and such, we need this. And to just hear the process of what they got and how they translated that and then how they're sending that forward, that is just, like, hugely insightful.
I'm just gonna give a freebie one out there. This was basically a TikTok episode. I'm dying because I'm just like, I can just imagine Jess going clack, 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 nailed it, and I'm on the other end going, what the fuck is this? So that's someone please go make that and go viral and like have one of us score it. It'll be great. So.
That is awesome.
I'm 100% for it.
One more thing though, Mark.
Ahead,
there's it's just while it's on my mind because we literally just did this like in real time. Our discussion we had, Mark, is where what you just heard. You can do the reverse a la. So if they hit you with like, hey, a la Mumford, and there's no song reference, I would say absolutely go back and be like, a la what song? Just kind of mentioned that as well. But like if it's just an artist and let's be real, most artists have a pretty wide plethora of sound, even in their general, scope. Is it one of their fast songs? Is it one of their slow songs? Is it, one of the ones that, are they referencing some kind of trailerized version that they don't even realize? Like if it's like an ad client, maybe they don't realize that wasn't an actual release. Like, so just, to like,
Well,
definitely
yeah,
ask
exactly. And
that.
we'll be like, it's warming and hopeful to have percussion and not too many electronics, but still be modern. And that's the kind of stuff that you're going to hear. And hopefully you can like, those are just kinds of the words that we use. It's just like, I've literally said that exact kind of thing, like something uplifting and heartwarming, and similar to this instrumental, nothing too electronic, but we really love the percussion in this song, and we want something that keeps with that percussion. And but we really want to know if you have any ideas. So yeah.
Okay, let me do some key
super helpful.
takeaways for a second, because you guys are blowing my mind. It's amazing. The important thing is that when you get a song, number one, and Amanda will love this answer, don't copy people's shit. Don't steal shit. Don't copy people's shit. Nobody is sending you anything unless they specifically say, do this, don't do this. And even if they say, hey, can you make a sound alike? When people ask me to do that, I go, do you mean a straight cover of your song? Because you cannot rip someone else's music. Something really important to know. So that is critical. You're going to get a lot of, every brief is going to give you a la Mumford & Sons or a la whatever. Dua Lipa comes up like 10 times a week. It's your job to extrapolate what that means. And it's like, okay, well, what about this song are they going for? So I look for things like tempo, instrumentation. Is it a male or a female vocal? Is it contemporary? If I hear Mumford & Sons, I go, okay, do they mean they want this kind of like country contemporary kind of thing? Or do they mean they want something organic? Or do they just mean they like guitars? Or do they just mean, hey, they like these group vocals? There's many things that you can take away from that thing. And that's where Koichi is right about going back to that person and not being afraid to say, oh, hey, so if I see, and most people are giving you more than one kind of a la something on, they'll give you 2 or 3 kind of examples. So if they don't give you the detail that Jess is talking about, saying, hey, we like the percussive style of this, or we like the this and this, see what themes are in common from those songs, or see what you might be able to create to that brief that you feel like they're really going for, and then validate it by asking them, say, hey, I really like that the percussive elements in that reference you sent. I also like that all 3 of these have, you don't have to say I like this, but if all 3 of them have female vocals, assume they want a female vocal, if they come at you with, we had a brief this week, there were 5 references, 3 out of the 5 of them were in Spanish. Ironically, we asked, they did not want any Spanish lyrics. I said, 3 out of the 5 of these are in Spanish. Do you want Latin music? And they went, oh, no, glad you asked. We love Latin beat. We have to have them in English because they're for promos. So super important to ask those things, but always look for tempo, pace, dynamics, spacing, tone, and male, female, or no vox at all. Those are things that I think if you had to make a little list, you can pull from references and then use them for inspiration. Do not steal people's shit. Period. Full stop. End of sentence.
So awesome. What a good question. Thank you, Mark, for that question. That was just that. You never know what's the question that's going to spark some of the great discussions, but that was a great question and a bunch of great responses. Cool. So with that, we are at we're right at 10 o'clock, 10:02. So perfect timing. Right. Shout out to Jess who's on stage. How you doing, Jess? I know it's probably like 3 a.m. where you are, so I'm glad you're able to jump on.
I know I can't get the time right. I'm extremely late. I'm sorry, guys. It sounds like a great discussion though tonight that I missed.
It was all good to see you though. Always good to see you.
Jess, we miss you so much.
I miss you too. Can I add
remind-
something late
Yes,
to like
please.
this discussion? What?
Please. Go.
Yeah?
Yes, definitely. Please.
I want to point out, because I know there's a lot of musicians in this room. If if the concern with this last question is if you think you're going to look bad pushing back and asking the supervisor a question about the brief, you won't. I learn a lot from people asking me questions because, like Jess was saying, if people ask me questions and I think I wrote a really bomb brief, I'm like, yeah, this is so detailed. This is great. It's going to be super easy. Sift it
100%.
through. And I get all these questions. I'm like, oh crap. So like, I actually prefer if I'm not being clear that you ask me questions because like Koichi was saying, it does save everyone time if you're sending me more realistic stuff and I'm listening to more realistic stuff.
Yeah, because
But
sometimes you remind me like, oh right, we actually do want a female vocal. Like, thank you
yeah,
for asking, or
yeah,
or I'm sending people. Sometimes I've sent people down the really wrong path, and
wrong rabbit hole. Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
rereading what I'm saying, and it's because I've watched the damn movie and like they haven't, so I'm trying to like write it out to explain it to somebody who hasn't seen what I've seen. And when I reread what I say, I'm like, this makes sense why you would pull the music you've pulled because of what I'm saying if you don't have the context. So I have to just rethink it differently because I would be getting back, different things than what I'm kind of looking for. So yeah, it completely helps when you have a clarification. Yeah, it's hard when we're like, when I've just sent out a brief and then I'm also digging on my own, and now I'm going to expect 100 emails back with folders of music. Like, yeah, it's a lot, but it definitely, I'll always respond to it because it's it's an important question.
Yeah. So definitely ask if you're not clear. Like, it's better for you creating these relationships to send more realistic music. Otherwise, if you're just constantly sending us stuff that's totally off the mark, even if it's our fault, it's going to rub us the wrong way. And we're not going to go back to you again. So please ask. Don't be worried about asking. Please ask us if it's not clear because you're already in the door if you got the brief in the first place. So don't worry about it.
Hi, Jess. Jess and Jess, I adore you both for saying that because I have to admit something, and I feel like it'll be helpful for the room to know that even I have those moments with music supervisors where we're like, oh, we can't ask or we don't know if we should ask because not every music supervisor is as lovely as you. So I get why people get intimidated, and don't want to bother people because we're working with a music supervisor who does ask us for a lot of stuff, but has not been that nice in the past. And Eric was actually working on a brief with me this weekend. And on the brief itself, it said, you have 3 musical moments in this script. They have to be in aggregate 1 minute and no longer, not a second longer. And then it said they're due at 10 a.m. And then down in the brief itself, it said, read the script and create this moment. But if you read the script, it says, this can be 20 to 45 seconds. This should be at least 45 seconds. And this should be 30 something seconds. And I went, oh, we were killing ourselves on timing, trying to get this to 1 minute long. And I was like, there's just no possible way that we can get this to a minute. And then Jason on my team was just like, just ask this person. And I was like, I can't, she hates me. I feel like if I ask her, she's going to be like, forget you. And then sure enough, I asked her and she's like, oh, I'm so glad you asked because no, that's a mistake. There's no way you can cram these into a minute, but you should keep them short. And she's like, but do whatever you feel makes it work. And I was like, son of a bitch, look at that.
Yeah. Honestly, it's one of those things. Sorry, Eric, go.
No, you go ahead. I'll add after you.
I was going to say it's one of those things that even the biggest egotists, because they do exist in this industry, when you ask a question and they can't deny that, you're like, oh, crap, you're right. That wasn't clear. And that means I'm going to, because like when someone asks me a question, even if, hopefully I'm not considered an asshole, but I don't think I'm an asshole, but even if someone considered me an asshole and they ask me a question, it would honestly, my first thought is, oh shit, no one else asked this, but that's a really good point. Everyone I sent an email to is now going to send me incorrect music. This is the problem. So like, I feel like don't be scared to ask questions, even if they're one of those problem people that you're working with, because I give everyone props. It's very hard to manage music supervisors. We're all weird. And so it's just ask that question. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry that anyone has made you feel that way, Steph, because you're amazing. Same with you, Eric.
I love you. Well, you know what? In fairness, we had done it.
Brene Brown when she says, "I don't."
Yeah, Josh. Can you repeat that? You cut out.
It said, I'm going to quote Brene Brown when she said, I don't trust people who don't ask questions.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too.
I love that. Well, I will say on the flip side of that, we had a situation with the same supervisor a week before on a brief we were doing where we did ask, and she gave us the wrong answer, and someone on her team was like, no, you don't have to do this. Like, actually, and it was saved us a lot of work because the brief actually said you have to create X amount of musical moments. And I went, do you really have to do all that? Or can we just like win with the song? And then if we do it, we can kind of finish it. And she was like, no, you definitely have to do it. And then 1 minute later, someone on her team chimed in and said, you actually don't have to do that. You can just create this 90-second thing. And that's a lot of difference in work too.
Yeah.
So, you know, and sometimes they hit you offline, and sometimes it's all a matter of your relationship with them. I've noticed that this supervisor and some other ones, if their team is on the email, sometimes I don't put them on because they don't like that I'm like pointing out that they're not detailed in their briefs or they've made a big mistake like that. So you do have to weigh those things politically. Sometimes it is a real thing. However, you know, if I didn't include her team on that one, I might not have gotten the right answer and done 3 times the amount of work, you know. So you got to weigh each situation differently, I think.
And when like the flip side is when the relationships are good and you get a chance to kind of, you know, you and the music supervisor ideally are friends, or at least like very much like you can kind of be in each other's heads and you get what's going on. Then even if there's a brief that's being sent out where everyone's kind of forwarded on it, they might chime in. I've had this happen to me where someone will just chime in and be like, FYI, they just want hot girl shit. Send that over. Like, I'm like, okay, fair. Like, I get that. Like, you know, so, and it's just like, I'm like, cool. Like, cause they know they're doing the translation on there and being like, okay, no, like I know this client, we've done this dance before. They're going to make you do all this crap. I know exactly where they're going to end up. Go here. You know, I'll be like, tight. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do that.
there's nothing more magical when you do. And I would say 99% of my experiences are actually on the other side of that, where you have a good relationship with that person. You can call them and be like, you know, Deraj was doing something. I was like, do you really want Chance the Rapper? Or do you like this kind of like, you know, pace of hip hop that's a little more melodic? And that's all they meant. They actually didn't want Chance. They just wanted like that kind of more sing-songy specific style. And they were like, no, we don't want. Yeah.
It's not easy to do Chance the Rapper. I'm just letting y'all know that right
For real,
now.
for
It's
real.
not. Deraj is really good, and Mickey's in the room. Mickey's really amazing at it too. Like, you know. Anyway, be original, ask questions. I love all these, and Jess and other Jess and Atik and everyone on stage. It's amazing to hear. You have a lot more. I think I speak for Eric, Deraj, and every creator in this room, including myself. You become way more empathetic when we hear from you guys saying this is our process and the things that you're dealing with, because you're essentially dealing with a second set of creators when you're talking to directors and producers and executive producers for all of your projects. So makes us have a lot more empathy, I think.
I totally
Yeah, my
agree.
big bang producer talks in colors. So like whichever one of you said that, like that was like a year of my life working in colors.
I did, because sometimes I'm just like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, that's that woo woo shit right there.
That's why
You
I wanna
eventually
go to
learn. You
extrapolate.
do eventually learn. You're like,
Yes.
oh, you need it to be green. Got it. You got it. Here you go. Here's some more.
Yeah, I so appreciate this. I mean, just hearing you know, Jess and even Steph, like here we always talk about be a human in terms of how to reach out to people, but actually seeing the human processes behind what for many of us is just all we get is all we see is the email. All in our mind is just, this is my shot and I don't want to blow the shot. And so it's hard to think that, you know, this is what it says on paper. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to give them what they want and hope that I give them what they want. And so to hear all this discussion and say that, no, there's actually human beings behind all this, and human beings who are even trying to figure things out on their side. And it's all, which just emphasizes the whole thing, that this whole thing is business, and all business is relationships. At every level, it's just relationships and talking to people and communicating and understanding one another, and, you know, trying to boil all the stuff that we're trying to do down to that thing of, just getting to, whatever level, whatever client, whatever manager, whatever agent you deal with, you're just connecting with another human being and trying to talk the same language. So it's really cool to just have all that drawn out that way just now. That was really beautiful.
Agreed. And as we're wrapping up the room tonight, I just want to give a shout out to all of the people in the room who, especially it's nice to see some new faces in here, but I love that we see Jennifer and Jesse and Angela and Kate and Tiffany. I need that children's song again, you guys. I forgot it, where you name all the names, Lisa, KZ. It's really amazing to see you guys back in the room every week. And to everyone who's new to the camp, welcome. Not to plug our own thing, but I don't want you to miss things. So if you haven't already, right above Eric's head, there's a little green house. Tap that button and join Control Camp. And if you don't know about it, if you missed any of the resources tonight, you can go to controlcamp.com, CTRLcamp.com. There's a plethora of resources for you, and you can join for very little money. You get a little Patreon. You can go back and re-listen to rooms, and there's other resources that we're working on for you. So, and I have to go back to old school original since I am a newer moderator that just became more permanent, and give Eric and Deraj such props because I just love listening. Tonight was one of my favorite Control Camps I think that we did, and Eric was texting me the same thing. And Eric and Deraj, thank you for creating this amazing community where people can safely, shake out all the shit. Pardon my New York French. I love it. It's really amazing. And thanks to our panelists tonight, Koichi, Tommy, Vo, Amanda, Jess, Psychosis, Mariella, Rosie, Atik, Jess, supervisors, lawyers, publishers, sync reps, artists. It's amazing to have all of these different voices in the room giving each other perspective. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Eric, you want to take us out?
Yes. Thank you all again. If you're sticking around, come see us at the after party. Again, click the house and hit follow if you don't see it. And remember, we don't really talk sync there, and we also don't automatically pull people up. Anybody who wants to come to the stage, just raise your hand, and you'll automatically be pulled up to the stage. If you can feel like hanging, come hang over there. Otherwise, we will see you back here on Saturday for the listening session, and then again here next Wednesday. So thank you all so much. Thank you everybody on stage. Thank you all in the audience. Have a good night, or we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Hi, Jess.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I don't know who said that, but hello.
That was Tommy.
It was Tommy.
Oh, it was Tommy. Okay, I'm going to go in the other room now since I'm late. I want to say hi to everyone.